Walk through Rome today, and you'll see tourists snapping selfies at the Colosseum, sipping espresso near ancient fountains, and tossing coins into the Trevi. It's a living museum where 2,000-year-old temples share streets with gelato shops. But rewind to 753 BC, and you'd find just 7 hills along the Tiber River, some shepherds, and a legend about twin brothers raised by a wolf. What happened in between? Conquest, betrayal, civil war, emperors going mad. A small village that became the greatest empire the world had ever seen. An empire that controlled 3 continents, gave us roads, laws, and aqueducts we still use today, then watched it all crumble into dust. For centuries, we could only imagine Rome's glory through ruins and Renaissance paintings. But now, using an eye trained on archaeological evidence and historical records, we can reconstruct what those marble temples, bustling forums, and blood-soaked arenas actually looked like when they were alive with the roar of a million voices. You're about to witness the rise and fall of the most influential civilization in history. 1,200 years of power, politics, and glory compressed into one journey. Sit back and relax as we walk through the entire history of Rome. Let's go back to where it all began. The year is 753 B.C. Central Italy is a patchwork of small tribes. The Etruscans to the north are sophisticated, building cities and trading with Greeks. The Latins in the middle are farmers and shepherds. Nothing special about them, except for one story they tell about their newest settlement. Twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, abandoned as infants on the banks of the Tiber River. A she-wolf finds them and nurses them back to health. Years later, the brothers decide to found a city on the spot where the wolf saved them. They argue about which hill to build on. The argument turns violent. Romulus kills his own brother and names the city after himself, Rome. It's probably not true, but it tells you everything about Roman culture. Violence, ambition, divine favor, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to win. For the first 2.5 centuries, Rome is a kingdom. 7 kings rule in succession. The early kings are mostly legendary figures, but the later ones are real. They build the Forum, drain the marshes, construct temples to Jupiter and Mars. Etruscan influence brings sophisticated architecture and engineering. Rome is growing, but it's still just one small city among many in Italy. Then in 509 BC, the last king, Tarquin the Proud, goes too far. His son assaults Lucretia, a respected noble woman. She tells her family what happened, then kills herself out of shame. Her father and husband are furious. They rally the people of Rome. The Tarquin family is driven out of the city at spear point. The Romans make a vow. Never again will one man hold absolute power over Rome. Never again will they bow to a king. The Roman Republic is born, and it will conquer the known world. By 500 BC, Rome has a new political system. 2 consuls elected each year to lead the army and run the government. A senate of aristocrats to advise and debate policy. Tribunes to protect the common people from abuse. Checks and balances everywhere. It's not perfect. The rich still dominate. But it's revolutionary for its time. There's only one problem. Rome is surrounded by enemies. To the north, the Etruscans want their influence back. To the east and south, tribes like the Aequi, Volsci, and Sabines eye Roman farmland hungrily. To survive, Rome has to fight. And fight. And fight. For the next century, it's constant warfare. Small battles, sieges, raids. Rome wins some, loses some. The Romans are stubborn, disciplined, and they never give up. Slowly, grudgingly, they start to expand. Then in 390 BC, disaster. A massive army of Gauls sweeps down from the north. These aren't the organized enemies Rome is used to. These are tall, fierce warriors who paint themselves blue and scream as they charge. At the Battle of Allia, the Gauls smash the Roman army like it's nothing. They march into Rome and burn it to the ground. The city that was supposed to be protected by the gods is in ashes. Romans who survive flee to the countryside or hole up in the Capitol Hill fortress. The Gauls loot everything, then eventually leave, bored or bribed or both. Rome is humiliated, traumatized, but here's the pattern you'll see again and again throughout Roman history. Rome loses, learns, comes back stronger. They rebuild. But this time, they construct massive defensive walls around the entire city. The Servian walls, some of which still stand 2,400 years later. And they change their military tactics. More flexible formations, better training, iron discipline. Over the next 130 years, Rome conquers the Italian peninsula one city at a time. When they defeat an enemy, they don't just destroy them. They offer a deal, become our ally. Keep your own laws and customs. In exchange, provide soldiers when we need them. It's brilliant. Every victory makes Rome stronger. By 264 BC, Rome controls all of Italy from the Po River to the toe of the boot. They've built the most effective military machine in the Mediterranean, the Roman legion. 6,000 heavy infantry, organized into flexible units called maniples, supported by cavalry and skirmishers. While other states rely on mercenaries who fight for pay, Roman legions are made of citizens fighting for their own land, their own families, their own republic. And they're damn good at it. But controlling Italy isn't enough. Across the Mediterranean, another power is rising. Carthage, a wealthy trading empire based in North Africa. They control Spain, Sardinia, western Sicily. Their navy dominates the sea. Rome and Carthage are on a collision course. And Rome is about to face its greatest enemy. The year is 264 BC. A group of mercenaries in Sicily ask both Rome and Carthage for help. Both show up. Neither backs down. The First Punic War begins. It lasts 23 years. Rome, which barely has a navy, somehow builds one from scratch. They copy a captured Carthaginian ship and mass-produce it. Roman ingenuity. They add a boarding bridge called a corvus that turns naval battles into land battles. By 241 BC, Rome wins. Carthage surrenders Sicily, but Carthage isn't finished. A Carthaginian general named Hamilcar Barca retreats to Spain and builds a new empire there. He makes his 9-year-old son swear an oath of eternal hatred against Rome. The boy's name is Hannibal. 20 years later, Hannibal is a general, and he does the impossible. The year is 218 B. C. Hannibal marches out of Spain with 40,000 soldiers, 8,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants. His target, Italy. But there's a problem. The Alps stand in the way. Mountain ranges that everyone assumes are impassable for an army, especially one with elephants. Hannibal crosses them anyway. It takes 15 days. Avalanches, freezing temperatures, hostile tribes. He loses half his men and most of his elephants, but he makes it. And suddenly, he's in northern Italy. The Romans can't believe it. No one saw it coming. Hannibal smashes through every Roman army sent against him. The Battle of Trebia, the Battle of Lake Trasimene. He uses terrain, deception, and superior tactics to destroy forces twice his size. The Romans are in full panic mode. Then comes the Battle of Cannae. August 2nd, 216 BC. The Romans field their largest army ever. 86,000 men. They outnumber Hannibal nearly 2-1. They're going to crush him once and for all. Hannibal draws them into a trap. His center retreats slowly, pulling the Romans forward. His cavalry sweeps around both flanks and closes the circle. The Roman army is completely surrounded. It's a slaughter. 50,000 Romans dead in a single afternoon. The worst military defeat in Roman history. Rome should have surrendered. Any other city-state would have, but Rome doesn't quit. The Senate refuses even to discuss peace terms. When news comes that another army has been destroyed, they don't panic. They raise another army, and another, and another. They tell the survivors of Cannae they're cowards and exile them to Sicily. Rome changes strategy. Instead of fighting Hannibal directly, they avoid him. Burn the crops, shadow his movements, cut off his supplies. Hannibal can win battles, but he can't win the war if Rome won't give up. Meanwhile, a young Roman general named Scipio has a different idea. Don't fight Hannibal in Italy. Attack Carthage directly. Force Hannibal to come home. Scipio invades North Africa. Hannibal is recalled from Italy after 15 years. The two greatest generals of their age finally meet at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. Scipio wins. Carthage surrenders. Hannibal flees into exile. Rome is the dominant power in the Western Mediterranean, but they're paranoid. Carthage, even defeated, still exists, still trades, still has wealth. 50 years later, a Roman senator named Cato ends every speech the same way: Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. In 149 BC, Rome picks a fight. The Third Punic War. It's not even a contest. In 146 BC, Roman soldiers storm into Carthage and burn it for 17 days straight. They kill or enslave the entire population. The city that had stood for 700 years is erased. According to legend, they plow salt into the ground so nothing will ever grow there again. Rome doesn't just defeat its enemies anymore, it annihilates them. With Carthage gone, nothing can stop Rome. They turn east. By 146 BC, the same year Carthage falls, Rome conquers Greece. The birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and art becomes a Roman province. Roman generals loot Greek temples and ship entire libraries back to Italy. Over the next century, the conquests come rapid fire. Macedonia, Asia Minor, Syria, Egypt, Spain, Gaul, modern-day France. By 30 BC, Rome controls the entire Mediterranean coastline and reaches as far north as the Rhine and Danube rivers. They call the Mediterranean Mare Nostrum, our sea. In just 150 years, Rome has transformed from a regional power into an empire spanning 3 continents. It's the largest empire the Western world has ever seen. But success brings new problems. Wealth is pouring into Rome from conquered territories, but it's not spread evenly. Senators and generals are getting obscenely rich. They buy up massive estates in Italy worked by slaves captured in war. Small farmers, the backbone of Roman society, can't compete. They lose their land and flood into Rome looking for work. The city swells with unemployed, angry citizens. The gap between rich and poor becomes a chasm. In 133 BC, a tribune named Tiberius Gracchus proposes land reform. Redistribute some of the public land seized by the wealthy back to poor citizens. The Senate is furious. During a riot, Tiberius is beaten to death by a mob of senators wielding chair legs. 10 years later, his younger brother Gaius tries the same reforms. He's also killed. The message is clear. The elite will not give up their wealth and power peacefully. Then comes the social war from 91 to 88 BC. Rome's Italian allies, who have fought in every Roman war for a century, demand Roman citizenship and the rights that come with it. Rome refuses, the allies rebel. Tens of thousands die on both sides before Rome finally grants citizenship. The Republic is fracturing. And into the chaos step the generals. Gaius Marius, a military genius, reforms the army. From now on, soldiers are paid professionals loyal to their general, not the Republic. It's a catastrophic change. Marius and his rival Sulla fight the First Roman Civil War. In 88 BC, Sulla does the unthinkable. He marshes legions into Rome itself. Roman soldiers fighting in the streets of Rome. It's a line that, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. Sulla wins, declares himself dictator, purges his enemies in a bloodbath, then retires. But the precedent is set. If you control the army, you control Rome. The Republic is dying. And 3 men are about to fight over its corpse. The year is 60 BC. 3 men are the most powerful in Rome. Pompey the Great, Rome's most successful general. Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in the Republic. And Gaius Julius Caesar, a brilliant politician from an old but not particularly wealthy family. They form a secret alliance. The first triumvirate. It's not official, not legal, but it's effective. They carve up power between them and use it to get what they want. Pompey gets land for his veterans. Crassus gets lucrative tax contracts in the East. Caesar gets what he wants most: a military command. He's assigned to Gaul, modern France and Belgium, as governor. Gaul is only partially conquered. Plenty of tribes to fight, plenty of glory to win, plenty of loot to take. Caesar spends the next 8 years conquering all of Gaul. He fights the Germanic tribes across the Rhine. He crosses the Channel and invades Britain, something no Roman has ever done. He writes dispatches back to Rome, describing his victories in the third person. Caesar did this. Caesar conquered that. It's propaganda, but it works. Romans back home love him. Meanwhile, he's building the most loyal, battle-hardened army in Roman history. His soldiers worship him. He knows their names, eats with them, shares their hardships. And he pays them well. By 53 BC, Crassus is dead, killed fighting the Parthians in the east. Now it's just Caesar and Pompey. And Pompey is getting nervous. The Senate is terrified of Caesar. They see a general with a huge loyal army camped just north of Italy. They remember Sulla. They know what happens when ambitious generals bring armies home. They side with Pompey and order Caesar to disband his legions and return to Rome as a private citizen. If he does, he'll probably be prosecuted and exiled. His political career will be over. Caesar faces a choice: obey the law and lose everything, or cross the Rubicon River, the border between Gaul and Italy, with his army, which is treason. On January 10, 49 BC, Caesar stands at the Rubicon with the 13th Legion. He knows what this means: civil war, Romans killing Romans. He pauses, then speaks. Alia iacta est. The die is cast. He crosses. Civil war begins. Pompey and the Senate flee to Greece. Caesar chases them. At the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC, Caesar's veterans crush Pompey's larger but less experienced army. Pompey flees to Egypt, hoping for sanctuary. Instead, the Egyptians murder him and present his head to Caesar as a gift. Caesar is not pleased. He might have been Pompey's enemy, but this is dishonorable. While in Egypt, Caesar meets Cleopatra, the 21-year-old queen locked in a power struggle with her brother. Caesar sides with her. They become lovers. She bears him a son. Caesar returns to Rome in 46 BC as the undisputed master of the Roman world. He's named dictator. He implements reforms. A new calendar with 365 days and a leap year. The Julian calendar we still use today. Land for veterans. Public works projects to employ the poor. He expands the Senate to include men from the provinces. But he makes one fatal mistake. He doesn't hide his power. In February 44 BC, the Senate offers him the title Dictator Perpetuo. Dictator for life. He accepts. To senators raised on stories of the Republic's founding, the overthrow of the kings, this is intolerable. Caesar has made himself king in everything but name. A conspiracy forms. Led by Brutus and Cassius, over 60 senators plot Caesar's assassination. They choose the Ides of March, March 15th, for the deed. Caesar is warned. A soothsayer tells him to beware the Ides of March. His wife Calpurnia has nightmares and begs him not to go to the Senate that day. He ignores them both. As Caesar enters the theater of Pompey where the Senate is meeting, the conspirators surround him. They pull out daggers hidden in their togas. Caesar tries to fight back, but there are too many. He's stabbed 23 times. When he sees Brutus among his attackers, he says, "Et tu, Brute?" You too, Brutus? Caesar collapses at the base of a statue of Pompey, his old enemy. He pulls his toga over his face and dies. The senators thought they were saving the Republic, but they just destroyed it. The year is 44 BC. Rome descends into chaos. The assassins thought that with Caesar dead, the Republic would return. They were wrong. Caesar's lieutenant, Mark Antony, seizes Caesar's will and fortune. At Caesar's funeral, Antony gives a speech that turns the Roman mob against the assassins. They flee the city. But Caesar had an heir. His grandnephew and adopted son, a sickly 18-year-old named Octavian. No one takes him seriously at first. He's too young, too inexperienced, too weak. They underestimate him. Octavian is cold, calculating, and utterly ruthless. Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus form the second triumvirate. This one is official. They're given extraordinary powers to restore order. Their first act is to purge their enemies. Proscription lists are posted. Thousands of senators, equestrians, and wealthy citizens are declared enemies of the state. Their property is seized. They're hunted down and killed. The most famous victim is Cicero, Rome's greatest orator. Soldiers catch him trying to flee. They cut off his head and hands and display them in the Forum. The triumvirate hunts down Caesar's assassins. Brutus and Cassius raise an army in Greece. At the Battle of Philippi in 42 BC, they're defeated. Both commit suicide. Now the triumvirate controls everything. Lepidus is sidelined, exiled to a villa. It comes down to Octavian and Antony. They divide the empire. Octavian takes the west. Antony takes the east. For a while, it holds. Then Antony goes to Egypt and falls for Cleopatra, the same queen who had been Caesar's lover. They marry, have children, and start acting like Eastern monarchs. Antony even gives Roman territories to Cleopatra as gifts. Romans are horrified. Their general has gone native. Worse, he's given Roman land to a foreign queen. Octavian seizes opportunity. He declares war, not on Antony, but on Cleopatra. Clever, he's not starting a civil war. He's defending Rome from a foreign threat. On September 2, 31 BC, the two fleets meet at Actium off the coast of Greece. The battle is indecisive at first. Then Cleopatra's ships suddenly turn and sail away. Antony abandons his fleet and follows her. His men are stunned. Their commander has fled. They surrender to Octavian. Antony and Cleopatra retreat to Egypt. Octavian follows. In August of 30 BC, as Octavian's army closes in, Antony stabs himself. He dies in Cleopatra's arms. Cleopatra tries to negotiate with Octavian. She fails. Rather than be paraded through Rome in chains during Octavian's triumph, she commits suicide. According to legend, by letting a poisonous asp bite her. Egypt becomes a Roman province. Octavian controls the entire Long world. The civil wars are finally over. In 27 BC, Octavian appears before the Senate. He makes a great show of resigning his powers and restoring the Republic. The Senate, grateful and terrified, showers him with honors. They give him a new name. Augustus, the revered one. Augustus is careful. He doesn't call himself king or dictator. He keeps the Senate, the consuls, the elections. All the republican traditions continue. On paper, but everyone knows the truth. He controls the army. He controls the treasury. He has the power. Rome's first emperor. The Republic is dead. The empire has begun, and Rome is about to enter its golden age. Augustus rules for 41 years. He transforms Rome from a city of brick into a city of marble. Temples, forums, theaters, aqueducts. He creates a professional standing army of 28 legions stationed at the borders. He establishes the Praetorian Guard to protect the emperor. He creates an efficient civil service to administer the provinces. Most importantly, he brings peace. After a century of civil wars, the Pax Romana begins. 2 centuries of relative stability and prosperity. When Augustus dies in 14 AD, the system he created continues. Not perfectly. Some emperors are incompetent, some are insane. But the empire holds. By the height of the empire, around 100 AD, Rome controls a staggering amount of territory. From Hadrian's Wall in northern Britain to the Sahara Desert. From the Atlantic coast of Spain to the Euphrates River in Mesopotamia. 50 to 70 million people live under Roman rule. 1 in every 4 humans alive. Let me take you through some of the emperors. Tiberius, Augustus's stepson, rules from 14 to 37 AD, competent but paranoid. He spends his final years on the island of Capri, sending back orders and death sentences. Caligula, 37 to 41 AD, starts well, then apparently goes insane. Declares himself a god, talks to statues, allegedly tries to make his horse a consul. He's assassinated by his own guards. Claudius, 41 to 54 AD, overlooked because of his limp and stutter, turns out to be a capable administrator, conquers Britain. Probably poisoned by his wife Agrippina. Nero, 54 to 68 AD, starts as a reasonable ruler, guided by the philosopher Seneca, then spirals into madness. He murders his mother, his wife, possibly his stepbrother. In 64 AD, a massive fire destroys much of Rome. Rumor says Nero started it. He blames the Christians and begins persecuting them. Nero fancies himself an artist and forces people to attend his terrible poetry readings and lyre concerts. By 68, the legions have had enough. He commits suicide. After Nero, the year 69 AD, called the Year of the Four Emperors, sees civil war again. Vespasian emerges victorious. He's a practical no-nonsense soldier who restores stability. He starts construction on the Colosseum. Funded by loot from the Jewish war, his son Titus completes it in 80 AD. The Colosseum seats 50,000 spectators. Gladiatorial games, wild beast hunts, mock naval battles. It's the greatest entertainment venue in the ancient world. Titus's brother Domitian takes over in 81 AD, competent but tyrannical. The Senate hates him. He's assassinated in 96. Then come the 5 good emperors, the peak of Roman power. Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, Marcus Aurelius. From 96 to 180 AD, the empire is ruled by capable, intelligent men who choose their successors based on merit, not blood. Trajan, 98 to 117, is a soldier's emperor. He conquers Dacia, modern Romania, bringing massive gold wealth into Rome. He pushes the eastern frontier to its furthest extent, briefly capturing Mesopotamia. At his death, the Roman Empire reaches its maximum territorial size. Hadrian, 117 to 138, is the opposite. He's a traveler, a builder, a consolidator. He builds Hadrian's Wall across northern Britain to mark the empire's edge. He rebuilds the Pantheon with its massive dome, still standing today. He travels constantly, visiting every province, securing borders rather than expanding them. Marcus Aurelius, 161 to 180, is a philosopher on the throne. He writes meditations, stoic reflections on duty, virtue, and acceptance. But his reign is plagued by wars on the northern frontier and a devastating plague that kills millions. If you lived in Rome around the year 100 AD, life would be more comfortable than anywhere else on earth. If you're a citizen, you get free grain from the state. Public entertainment is constant. Gladiatorial games, chariot races at the Circus Maximus. The Colosseum hosts spectacles 70 days a year. Most cities have running water brought by aqueducts stretching 50 miles or more. Public baths where you can socialize, exercise, get clean. Public toilets with marble seats. Some wealthy homes have heated floors and glass windows. There are libraries, theaters, markets selling goods from across the empire. Roman engineering is extraordinary. They build roads spanning 250,000 miles, many still in use today. They invent concrete that, in some ways, is stronger than modern concrete. The Pantheon's dome, poured in 126 AD, remains the largest unreinforced concrete dome ever built. But underneath the marble and the glory, rot is setting in. Lead pipes carry the water. Lead plates and cups are used for food and drink. Some historians think chronic lead poisoning affects the ruling class, causing erratic behavior and declining fertility. The birth rate among native Romans is dropping. Emperor Augustus had offered tax breaks for having children. It didn't work. Romans are being replaced demographically by provincials and immigrants. The economy increasingly depends on slave labor from conquests. But after Trajan, there are no more major conquests. The supply of slaves dries up, and the emperors are getting worse. Marcus Aurelius makes a catastrophic mistake. He breaks the pattern of choosing the best successor. Instead, he leaves the empire to his biological son. His name is Commodus, and he's insane. The year is 180 AD. Marcus Aurelius dies of plague in a military camp on the Danube. His son Commodus becomes emperor, age 18. Commodus has no interest in governing. He wants to be a gladiator. He literally fights in the arena, always against opponents armed with wooden weapons while he has steel. He kills ostriches, lions, and disabled people for fun. He renames Rome after himself. Colonia Commodiana. The Senate is horrified. In 192, his own wrestling partner strangles him in his bath. What follows is chaos. The Praetorian Guard, the emperor's bodyguards, literally auction off the throne to the highest bidder. Civil war breaks out. 5 emperors in 1 year. The empire fractures. A general named Septimius Severus wins, but the damage is done. The next century is catastrophic. From 235 to 284 AD, the crisis of the 3rd century, Rome has 26 emperors in 50 years. Most are murdered or killed in battle. The average reign is less than 2 years. It's not just internal chaos. External enemies sense weakness. Germanic tribes pour across the Rhine and Danube. They raid deep into Gaul, Spain, even Italy itself. In 260 AD, the Alemanni reach northern Italy before being stopped. In the east, a new Persian dynasty, the Sassanids, conquers Roman provinces. In 260, Emperor Valerian is captured by the Persian king Shapur I. It's the most humiliating moment in Roman history. Valerian spends the rest of his life as a prisoner. When he dies, legend says Shapur has him skinned and his hide stuffed and displayed in a temple. The empire briefly splits into 3 separate states. The Gallic Empire in the west, the Palmyrene Empire in the east. Rome in the middle. It looks like the end. On top of the military disasters, plagues sweep through. The Antonine Plague from 165 to 180 killed millions, possibly smallpox. The Plague of Cyprian from 249 to 262 kills even more. Cities are depopulated. The army can't find recruits. The economy collapses. To pay the army, emperors debase the currency, mixing bronze into silver coins. Hyperinflation destroys what's left of trade. Farmers abandon their fields. Tax revenue disappears. It's a death spiral. Can't pay the army, so the army revolts and puts a new emperor on the throne. The new emperor debases the currency further to pay the army. Inflation gets worse. Repeat. Rome should have fallen. But in 284 AD, a general named Diocletian seizes power. And he manages to put the empire back together. The year is 284 AD. Diocletian looks at the empire and realizes it's too big, too complex for one man to rule. So he divides it. He creates the Tetrarchy, rule by 4. 2 senior emperors called Augusti, one in the east and one in the west. Each Augustus has a junior partner called a Caesar who will succeed him. Diocletian rules the east from Nicomedia. Maximian rules the west from Milan. It's ingenious. It doubles administrative capacity and creates clear succession plans. Civil wars should stop. Diocletian also reforms the tax system, fixes the currency, reorganizes the military. He doubles the size of the army, creating mobile field armies to respond to threats while border troops hold the frontiers. He also launches the last and worst persecution of Christians. Diocletian sees Christianity as a threat to Roman unity. Traditional Roman religion is about civic duty. about sacrifice to the gods for the good of the state. Christianity says there's only one God and earthly power doesn't matter. Diocletian orders churches destroyed, scriptures burned, Christians dismissed from government positions. Thousands are executed. It doesn't work. Christianity keeps spreading. In 305, Diocletian does something no Roman emperor has ever done. He retires, voluntarily. He moves to a palace in modern-day Croatia and spends his final years gardening. But the tetrarchy doesn't survive him. The succession plan immediately breaks down. Civil war erupts again. A general named Constantine wins. In 312 AD, Constantine is marching on Rome to fight his rival Maxentius. The night before the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, Constantine has a vision. He sees a cross in the sky with the words, "In this sign, you will conquer." Constantine orders his soldiers to paint the Christian symbol, the Chi-Rho, on their shields. The next day, they win decisively. Maxentius drowns in the Tiber trying to flee. Constantine converts to Christianity. In 313 AD, he issues the Edict of Milan. Christianity is legal. Persecution ends. Christians can worship openly, hold property, build churches. It's a seismic shift. Rome, the empire that fed Christians to lions, now has a Christian emperor. Constantine doesn't stop there. In 330 AD, he moves the capital. Rome, the eternal city, is no longer the center of the empire. Constantine builds a new capital on the site of the ancient Greek city of Byzantium. He calls it Constantinople. Modern-day Istanbul. It makes sense strategically. Constantinople sits at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, easily defensible, wealthy, close to the threatened eastern frontier. But symbolically, it's massive. Rome is being abandoned. When Constantine dies in 337, he's divided the empire among his sons. They immediately start fighting each other. By 395 AD, the empire is permanently split. The Western Roman Empire, capital in Ravenna or Milan. The Eastern Roman Empire, capital in Constantinople. They're theoretically one empire with two halves, but in practice they're separate states. The East is wealthy, stable, Greek-speaking, and will survive another 1,000 years. The West is poor, chaotic, Latin-speaking, and has less than a century left. The crisis comes from the East. A nomadic people called the Huns sweep out of Central Asia under their king Attila. They're terrifying. Mounted archers who can shoot from horseback, who live in the saddle, who seem unstoppable. The Huns push Germanic tribes into the empire. The Goths, Vandals, Franks, Burgundians. These aren't raiders anymore. They're entire peoples looking for new land, fleeing the Huns. Rome can't stop them. The Western army is underfunded, undermanned, increasingly made up of the very barbarians it's supposed to be fighting against. In 410 AD, the Visigoths under King Alaric sack Rome. It's the first time in 800 years that a foreign enemy has entered the city. The psychological shock is enormous. St. Jerome writes, "The city which had taken the whole world was itself taken." In 455, the Vandals sack Rome again. Then in 476, a Germanic general named Odoacer deposes the last Western emperor. The emperor's name is Romulus Augustulus, Little Augustus, an ironic echo of Rome's founder Romulus and first emperor Augustus. Odoacer doesn't bother declaring himself emperor. He just sends the imperial regalia to Constantinople and rules Italy as a king. September 4th, 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire ceases to exist. No dramatic battle, no final speech. It just ends. But here's the thing. The Eastern Roman Empire, which we call the Byzantine Empire, survives until 1453. Another 1,000 years. They still call themselves Romans. They preserve Roman law, Roman culture, Roman traditions. So when did Rome really fall? 476, 1453? Or did it never fall at all? So why did the Western Roman Empire collapse? Historians have been arguing about this for 1,500 years. There's no single answer. It's more like death by 1,000 cuts. Economic collapse. Trade routes were cut off by barbarian invasions. Cities shrank. Tax revenue disappeared. The government couldn't pay the army. Military weakness. The Western army relied increasingly on barbarian foederati, allied tribes who fought for Rome, but had no loyalty to it. When push came to shove, they looked after their own interests. Political instability. Constant civil wars, weak emperors, generals fighting for the throne. The government was dysfunctional. Disease. Waves of plague killed millions, depopulated cities, wrecked the economy. The Antonine Plague, the plague of Cyprian, and later epidemics hollowed out the empire. Lead poisoning. Romans used lead pipes for water, lead plates for food, lead acetate to sweeten wine. Some historians think chronic lead poisoning damaged the health and cognitive abilities of the elite. Christianity. Some argue that Christianity's focus on the afterlife made Romans weak, unwilling to fight for earthly glory. Others argue Christianity gave the empire moral cohesion when it needed it most. Barbarian invasions, obviously. The Huns triggered a domino effect that pushed Germanic tribes into the empire. Rome didn't fall for one reason. It fell because multiple crises hit at once, and the structures that had held the empire together for centuries finally gave way. But maybe the better question isn't why Rome fell. It's how did it last so long? 700 years as a republic. 500 years as an empire. 1,200 years from Romulus to Romulus Augustus. That's longer than most civilizations exist at all. Rome survived the Gauls burning their city, Hannibal annihilating their armies, civil wars that tore the state apart, insane emperors, plagues, economic collapse. But did Rome really die? Walk into any courtroom in the Western world and you'll hear echoes of Rome. Innocent until proven guilty, Roman law. Trial by jury, Roman innovation, the right to appeal. Rome, look at the buildings around you. Every government building with columns and a dome is copying Rome, the U.S. Capitol. The Supreme Court, the Pantheon in Paris, banks, libraries, universities. Roman architecture became the architecture of power, the languages you hear. All descended from Latin. 60% of English words have Latin roots. Every time you say justice, liberty, republic, senate, you're speaking Latin. Your calendar. July, named for Julius Caesar. August, named for Augustus. 12 months, 365 days, leap years. Julius Caesar's calendar with minor tweaks. Modern military ranks and structure. Centurions became captains. Legates became lieutenants. The Roman legions organization influenced every Western army that came after. Political vocabulary, republic, senate, capital, forum, emperor. Caesar became Kaiser in German, Tsar in Russian. Even the concept of citizenship, of laws that apply equally, of a government responsible to its people. These ideas were forged in the Roman Republic and spread across the world. Roman engineering still works. Aqueducts still carry water. Roads laid down 2,000 years ago are still driven on. The Pantheon's dome still stands. Roman concrete is still being studied because we don't fully understand why it's so durable. Rome created the template for Western civilization. How we build cities, how we organize governments, how we think about law, citizenship, rights. It all goes back to Rome. The pattern we saw throughout Roman history, survive, adapt, rebuild, that's the pattern Rome left to the world. Rome fell, yes, but in a very real sense, it never died. Every law, every bridge, every marble column, every word descended from Latin, is Rome's legacy still living. For 1,200 years, Rome endured. It kept going. The Pantheon is still there. The aqueducts still work, some of them. The forum where Caesar was killed is still visible. The roads still lead to Rome. Empires rise and fall. But Rome? Rome is eternal. Thanks for watching. Creating videos like this takes weeks of research, piecing together over a millennium of history from scattered sources, archaeological evidence, and ancient texts into one coherent story. If you enjoyed this journey from a shepherd's village on 7 hills to the greatest empire in history and its eventual fall, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the civilizations that shaped our world. And let me know in the comments, what empire should we cover next? The Mongols, who conquered more territory than Rome. The Ottomans, who called themselves the Third Rome. The British Empire, that controlled a quarter of the globe. Let me know what you want to see. As always, we'll see you in the past.